Let's look at some response patterns of a large group of students who took a PSAT a few years ago. Let's look for the test question trends as well as the student response trends. We will magnify it in a minute so you can see the text better, but at a glance, you're probably able to see some patterns. Yellow and orange are some things to take note of, as you'll see later. The first column is the test taken. Here we're looking at the reading test. Questions are listed here in order. The College Board has labeled questions as easy, medium, and hard. You see here that the reading test does not present questions in order of easy, medium, and hard. They're all mixed in. The percent correct is the percentage of students who answered the particular question correctly. The omit percent is the percentage of students who just left the question completely unanswered on the test. Totally blank. This is a no-no, and one of the things we hope you learn from this is that these students would not have been penalized points-wise had they just filled in any bubble on their answer documents. In fact, by chance, several would have earned the points regardless of whether they knew the answer or not. Never leave an answer blank on your PSAT or SAT at the end of the test. The last few columns identify which skills were being tested for each question. Here you can see that the reading test measures words in context and command of evidence. Many passages are about careers, science, and social studies, and you'll get some subscores on your score report to show you how you also performed in those areas. The reading test doesn't specifically measure expression of ideas in standard English conventions like the writing and language test does. Okay, so let's take a closer look at these students' PSAT response patterns on the reading test. The questions are shown in order. Question 1 was shown as easy, and as soon as question 2, medium shows up. As soon as question 6, hard shows up. Can you see a pattern? Easy, medium, and hard questions showed up throughout the reading test. Even the last question was labeled as an easy one. Students who don't know this, or who don't keep an eye on time, may miss an easy question wherever it shows up on the test. Regarding how many students got this correct, 77% got easy question 1 right. Only 40% got medium question 2 correct, and 30% got hard question 6 right. Here's what we hope you notice. Nobody left the first 5 answers blank on their answer documents. Thank goodness. But 1% of students left an answer blank starting at question 6, the hard one. This screenshot only shows response patterns for questions 1 through 28. Let's look at questions 29 through 47. There's mixed review of the answers selected correctly, but overall, they're scoring higher on the easy questions. Still, 5% of students left an easy question blank for question 31. Look at questions 43 and 44. They were easy too, but even more students left those blank. You can see from the yellow and orange that more students started leaving blanks on their answer documents later in the test. This is probably because they had some difficulty finishing the test before time was up. What would you have told them to do instead? If you said bubble in the same letter for each unanswered question in hope that statistically they could have selected a correct response, we agree with you that an answered question would have been better than an omitted one. Again, here's the reading response spreadsheet at a glance. Now, the reading test and then the writing and language test get put together for your evidence-based reading and writing score. Do you already see a pattern on the writing and language test that you saw when looking at the reading? You probably noticed more than one. Remember, reading tests words in context and command of evidence. The writing test measures those two through how you express ideas and language. Standard English conventions, sometimes generally referred to as grammar, is measured alone in its own special questions. We aren't comparing apples to oranges between the reading test and the writing and language test, though you might think of it as comparing different kinds of apples. Here's the writing and language test at a glance. We will go a little quicker now that you're oriented with our layout. Again, the difficulty level of the questions are not in order, it's a mixed bag. Fewer students are getting the hard answers correct, and that is typical. But right off the bat, somebody left the first question blank. The teacher in me wants to know who it was so I can have a talk with them. As soon as question 20, 3% of students just left the response bubbles all alone with no attention. Look at question 1. It was a standard English conventions question, labeled as easy. It was measuring one skill, and only 59% of students got the answer correct. More students got easy questions 2 and 3 right, which were both measuring how students understand words in context and how they express ideas. Question 4 was labeled medium, and it was measuring expression of ideas, but through how students understood it in relation to a passage. They were supposed to be paying close attention to evidence that was presented. Okay, still on the writing test, you can see what's happening in the yellow and orange. What do you suppose happened here? Yes, you're quite likely right. Looks like they didn't bubble. Here's the writing and language at a glance again before we move on to math. All right, here's the math without calculator test, all on one page. Again, you can see that it's a mixed bag to a certain degree, but question 1 yet again is labeled as easy. You probably should know the answer to the first question on the test, but don't panic if you don't. Just do your best. This was measuring algebra skills, and the stronger your algebra, the higher you'd probably score. Passport to advanced math means the other math skills you'll need to know before you enter advanced math courses. If you had to guess what happened after question 13, what would you say probably went right for some students and what probably went not so well for others? 54% of students answered correctly on the medium questions, but so many people left the response bubble recklessly abandoned. On question 17, how many of those 31% of students who didn't mark a response would you suppose could have gotten the correct answer and points for it if they hadn't left it blank? That 7% correct would have looked different. None of these questions fell into the problem-solving and data analysis skills category. Math with calculator. Remember not to fall in the trap of using your calculator to answer all of these questions. If you do, you're very likely going to run out of time because using your math skills will sometimes be faster. You can still make human errors when using a calculator too, so use your best judgment. This was an 11th grade test, and there was still an easy question on the test. Just like the other math section, the difficulty label did seem to follow a pattern of easy first, medium next, and hard last, but we can't guarantee that the College Board will always stick to this presentation sequence on their PSAT and SAT tests. You can see that this test looked at heart of algebra, problem solving and data analysis, and passport to advanced math, but never more than one skill category per question. That doesn't mean you won't see questions of science and social studies topics integrated through your math prompts or questions. As the test went on, it's possible that some students got tired, that others didn't finish, that their math skill levels were not ready for the hard questions, or a combination of those possibilities. It's important to have positive self-talk in your head to keep you going at the end of a test, such as, I've got this, I'm doing my best, and I know what to do if I start running out of time. You're going to likely feel more confident if you do some regular practice on Khan Academy before you take your PSAT or SAT. Before we leave you, which reminder do you think we will give you yet once again? You probably guessed it. We want you to read carefully and solve every question to the best of your ability, but if you have a few questions left and are almost out of time, don't forget to bubble.